Well, the BC General Employees Union says it is escalating job action and launching pickets in downtown Vancouver. 90 union workers will picket outside of government offices on Howe Street this morning. More than 2,600 BCGEU members have been staging job action in Victoria and Surrey and in Prince George since Tuesday. The union says in a release that the province's bargaining team has made no indication that it is willing to return to the bargaining table. Daniel Reeve is a political science instructor at Camosun College, and we have reached him in Victoria this morning. Good morning to you, Daniel.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time with us. The BCGEU has been in a legal strike position since Tuesday. We have seen limited job action since then. What do you make of the action that we're seeing today?
Well, I think what we're seeing is this gradual ramping up, the gradual increasing in pressure. What's interesting too is the rhetoric is getting a little stronger. This is always a very interesting relationship when a large union like the BCGEU negotiates with the BC NDP government. Some of those cabinet ministers not so long ago were part of various labor unions, not many of them, but a few of them, most notably the labor minister. So we'll see where this goes. I just think it's the early stages. They have had kind of a take it slow approach, but I think we'll see that expand as the week progresses, I would imagine.
With this escalating action, as you say, I mean, they're taking it straight to the NDP? Are they with, heading to the finance ministry offices?
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately, well, it's the premier and the cabinet who are going to make key decisions. It's a finance minister who they're targeting, and it's really going to be kind of targeting a political kind of destination. They know that the finance minister ultimately one is going to decide how much money is going to be spent negotiating this deal. The two sides are far apart. The BCGEU is looking at 4 and 4.25, and the government said somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5-ish to, and then in the first year to 2% in the second. Just as a context, inflation rates for cost of living, and again, it depends a bit where you're living, but it's somewhere in the range of this year, in the range of 2.3 to 2.0. It kind of depends, again, on where you're living. And then in the previous year, it was a little higher. So the initial government offering of 1.5 is definitely lower than cost of living, but this is probably their starting position. They're under pressure to both seen as they're really in kind of rock and hard place territory. On the one hand, they have to be concerned with how much they spend on this contract negotiation because there are lots of other large unions coming to negotiate with the government this fall. And then on the other hand, they have a lot of supporters in the unions, and they can't be seen as being I would say disrespectful of the unions. I think that's the fine line. I don't think the unions are expecting them to give everything they want. On the other hand, they can't be seen as hostile.
I get that. At the same time, though, I mean, the province recorded the largest deficit in its history in the last fiscal year, 24-25, $7.3 billion. The provincial debt has gone up, by 50% just in the time that David Eby's been premier. The government is, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of room to deal here.
Yeah, that's the if there's a rock and a hard place, there's some other element in here, which is the debt and the deficit, and how important is that as a political calculation? It really does put them in a tough spot. Those are the calculations the Minister of Finance is dealing with. On the one hand, the debt and deficit, as you mentioned, and then how do they? And this is one negotiation amongst many. And how do they establish that? This is the difficult part of being in government, and this is what they have to figure out. And it'll be interesting to see. Honestly, I'm not sure how they're going to go through with this. I assume that they're not going to grant the BCGEU the 4%. On the other hand, 1.5 is definitely not something that's going to pass.
I guess, though, I mean, when you talk about the relationship between the NDP and Labour, where is Labour going to go in this province to get a better deal?
Yeah, I mean, that is the other card here is that while the NDP will want to seen as not openly hostile to Labour, on the other hand, any potential other government would, I would imagine, be fairly hostile, at least would be perceived as hostile by many of the Labour folks. So there's no easy out for either side.
Hmm.
And I think that's what makes this negotiation so interesting. And also, like, this negotiation with the BCGEO is just one of many that's coming this fall. And there's always, I mean, there's always negotiations across the various unions across the province at any one time, but this fall seems particularly noticeable. So, you know, what is the middle point they're trying to achieve?
Well, right.
And
And
the
they've also,
government's been fairly tight-lipped on this. Now, negotiations tend to be that way, but what is the middle point they're trying to balance?
teachers as well are starting the school year without a collective agreement. Their contract expired in June. That's a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, and that's one. The college teachers, which I am one of, we don't have a agreement either. So there are lots of negotiations to come. So yeah, this is the other part of this is that if the province were to set a structure and get an agreement with the BCGEU, many people would see that as kind of a framework agreement, as kind of a ballpark for the next set of agreements with the next union, whether it's teachers or whoever else. This will be the framework agreement that might set the standard or precedent for the negotiations to come. So it's a really intense negotiation because it's really not one negotiation. It's kind of setting possibly the standard for a series of negotiations. The unions have said that what the government has tried to do is kind of wheedle off separate agreements in smaller agreements so that they can kind of divide and conquer.
Right.
And we'll see what the strategy is.
And then, of course, they'll have to face criticism of the opposition conservatives, regardless of what they do.
And yeah, and I think for the NDP, that's whatever they negotiate. I'm pretty sure that the conservatives won't like it, which is the kind of the role of the opposition. So I don't actually think that that's a major concern.
Mm,
I think it's more public perception, and then the reality, the financial realities, and then their relationship to labor. I think those are the
sure.
three kind of key core concerns.
Daniel, good to hear you this morning. Thank you for the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
We appreciate it. Take care.
You bet.
That's Daniel Reeve, political science instructor at Camosun College.